Mary gets married. Mary's decision. While Mary and her mother cooked, washed clothes, weaved, or mended things, they talked about Mary's future. Anne was surprised when Mary told her she did not want to get married. Mary said she preferred to live alone, the way she had at temple school. Anne told Mary that Jewish people felt that the Messiah was soon to come. Because you are a descendant of David, Anne explained, you are among the young women who might hope to become the mother of the Savior. Mary held firmly to her decision. She wanted to remain a virgin, yet she knew whatever happened to her was up to her mother and father. With God's help, Mary's mother and father discussed Mary's wish. They wanted to respect her decision, yet they still wanted her to get married. With God's help, said Joachim, perhaps we shall find a way to do both. Looking for a way, Joachim sent his younger brother Jacob, who was Mary's uncle. While Joachim lived in Jerusalem all these years, Uncle Jacob took care of family affairs in Nazareth. He was a carpenter. The two men talked about Jacob's oldest son, Joseph, Mary's cousin. Though older than Mary, Joseph was a quiet and shy man and a carpenter like his father. He was known as Joseph the Just because of his honesty and fairness. The two men recalled how Joseph and Mary always seemed to like each other whenever Mary was on vacation from school and the two families were together. A good idea. That evening, Joachim said to Anne, I have an idea. Since you and I have no son of our own, our nephew Joseph is our natural heir. He will inherit all we leave behind. He would be the perfect husband for Mary. Yes, said Anne, nodding in agreement. Joseph and Mary have known and loved each other for a long time as cousins. Mary would be happy with him. Even if she intends to remain a virgin, Joachim added, she will need to be committed to a man who will keep her and care for her. To the delight of Anne and Joachim, both Mary and Joseph liked the idea, and so did Joseph's parents. Talking together, we can imagine that Mary and Joseph fully discussed how they wanted to live. Mary told him she wished to remain a virgin as she was at temple school. I want to dedicate my life to God, Joseph, she said. Joseph agreed they could continue to love each other as they always did as cousins. When we are married, he said, I will also protect you and care for you. Betrothal ceremony. A betrothal is like getting engaged to be married. For the Hebrews, however, it was a very serious event and almost as binding as a marriage. Relatives from both families came to the betrothal ceremony, which began at Mary's house. While the guests were eating, drinking, singing, and dancing, Mary remained in her room until it was time for the ceremony. A year later would be the formal wedding. Until that time, according to custom, Mary continued to live with her parents. God's angel. One day, shortly after the betrothal, a special thing happened to Mary. While she was praying, God's angel came to tell her that God chose her to be mother of the Savior. Mary told the angel she did not know how this could happen, since she already had promised God she would remain a virgin and never have children. But the messenger said she was not to be afraid. She would give birth to God's Son through the power of the Holy Spirit and still remain a virgin. The baby was to be named Jesus. Then Mary said, "Let it be done to me just as you have said." She agreed to be Jesus' mother. Telling her mother, Mary ran to tell her mother about the message from God. They hugged and kissed each other. They praised and thanked God for remembering their people. Anne looked at Mary lovingly. "How happy I am," she said, "to know that my daughter's child will be the long-awaited Messiah, the Savior of the world." Mary was eager to tell Joseph. She hoped he would be happy to hear about the baby. Telling Joseph. When Mary told Joseph she was going to have a baby, Joseph was confused because he knew it was not his baby. His mind was troubled and he did not know what to do. Because he loved Mary very much, he wanted to believe what she said about the baby, but he found it hard to do so. When he was alone, he thought about breaking their engagement. But if he accused Mary of having someone else's baby, Mary would be punished severely by the law. He did not want that to happen. Joseph's dream. After a long struggle in his mind, Joseph finally decided to have Mary sent away quietly to some relatives to have her baby, as the law allowed. But the very night he made this decision, even before he had a chance to tell Mary, Joseph had a dream. In the dream, an angel appeared and told him it was all right to marry Mary because her child was indeed God's own son, the Savior promised to their people. The happy couple. Excitedly, next morning, Joseph hurried to tell Mary about his dream. Anne and Joachim were very relieved when they heard the young couple talking happily and making plans. Then Mary and Joseph went to tell Joseph's mother and father about Mary's message and Joseph's dream, so that Joseph's parents would understand about the new baby. A problem. Soon the other villagers in Nazareth would be able to see that Mary was expecting a baby. The problem was whether she should continue living with her parents, or should she now move in with Joseph's family, as was the custom? A solution. Mary solved the problem by suggesting she visit her cousin Elizabeth in the village of Acharem, a few miles from Jerusalem. God's messenger had told Mary that Elizabeth was soon to have a baby, even though she was almost too old to have one. It would give Mary and Elizabeth a chance to talk to each other about their special babies, and Mary could help Elizabeth get things ready for her child. An enjoyable trip. As a 14-year-old girl, Mary would never have been allowed to make the journey to Elizabeth's village alone, so her mother and father agreed to go with her. "It's been a long time since we've been back to our house in Jerusalem," Anne said to Joachim. "I also have some business to take care of in Jerusalem," said Joachim. "Besides, it's spring and a good time for us to do some traveling." Their trip took about 5 days, and they enjoyed walking together in the lovely warm air, with new flowers blooming along the way. Visiting cousin Elizabeth. In the late afternoon, Mary and her parents reached Jerusalem and the house where Mary was born. Next morning, Mary walked by herself the last few miles to Elizabeth's house in Ein Kerem. Elizabeth was happy to see Mary. "It is good to know you will stay with me until my baby comes," she said. Mary and Elizabeth enjoyed one another's company. Like devout Jewish women, they prayed together and praised God for loving their people and caring for them. Together, they went often to the great temple, especially during the holy days. Since Elizabeth's husband Zachary was a priest there, he could take them whenever they wished. Mary could even visit her former teachers at temple school. Mary and Elizabeth were busy and happy together preparing for Elizabeth's baby. A marriage ceremony. Mary returned to Nazareth for her marriage to Joseph. On the day of her wedding, Mary, the bride, and Joseph, the groom, walked together in a procession from her family's house to his family's house. There they and all the relatives who had come from far and near listened as a scribe read the marriage contract. After the wedding ceremony, there was a big dinner party. Many times during the meal, relatives and friends arose to recite a blessing on the new couple. After the meal, the party went on for many hours. As long as there was wine left to drink, people stayed to sing and dance and rejoice with the bride and groom. Settling down, Mary and Joseph decided to make their home in Nazareth. Joseph found plenty of work as a carpenter, and they bought a small house of their own. During the day, while Joseph worked in the carpenter shop, Mary was busy preparing what she would need for her new baby. Her mother helped her make baby clothes and blankets. During the evenings, because it was a small village, Mary and Joseph went visiting. Sometimes they would visit Mary's parents, sometimes Joseph's parents. They were learning to be a new family and good neighbors.